Hey there, I'm Bruce Ulrich. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm in Lakeside Woodwork shop with my buddy Caleb from YouCanMakeThisToo. We were building a couple of tables out of the same slab, just a little bit different style. Let me show you how we made them. We started out in the Lakeside Woodwork shop where they have a ton of slabs of different species, sizes, and thicknesses. We picked out a slab of olive wood that had some really gnarly cracks, but we knew we wanted to build something out of it. We landed on making a couple of end tables for Nick and Jessica's house in their theater room. They had a spot in the corner by a recliner that was begging for a small table, so Caleb started taking some measurements to fit the spot. On the other side of the room, I moved a bookshelf they wanted to get rid of and talked it out for the dimensions of what the table would look like there. Then, it was back to the shop to start cutting up the slab. Nick, one of the owners of Lakeside Woodworks, had plenty of good tips and tricks to show us, since they are a production shop and they have to be really efficient for their client builds. I'll share some of the things I picked up on, but be sure to go watch Caleb's video after this one. He'll be sharing even more tips there. I'll link to his video down in the description. The first tip was when making a cut with the track saw, especially in some really dense wood like the olive wood, make a cut, move the track over just a 1/16 of an inch and make another pass. This will clean up any burning that happened on the other cut. It's such a simple thing, but it works great.
If we go to where it's like 17, so it cuts out
Just have like
a little bit more, so it's just this much,
Okay.
and then we can fill that much.
Okay. There were quite a few people there making sure we got the perfect Instagram shot. I've got this clamped because this one little piece was about to fly off, so I'm going to secure it by drilling through here, put a couple screws real deep to catch the other part, and then we're just going to cap it off with a couple dowel plugs or something.
Then, how to look awkward while drilling.
I like this new segment, except it's at my expense.
It's taking me back to baseball. Get your elbow up! Get your elbow up!
If you're not sure how deep you drilled a hole, grab a pencil or something, stick it in there, and mark where it comes out of the hole. Then you can use this to compare on the side to know just how deep it is. To keep from going too deep on the second hole, I put a little flag on the drill bit so I would know when to stop. Now this is flexing. The whole thing. Look at that.
Yeah.
So as I was shoring up this brake here to put screws in and then cap them off, I noticed there was some flex in the middle of this slab. So this big crack that we thought didn't go all the way through apparently did, because it's kind of moving there. So now, in addition to us putting, I'm going to do a bow tie here, we're also going to do one probably here or maybe a couple to kind of shore up this crack. Meanwhile, Caleb was starting on his table. He grabbed a scrap piece of plywood and made a quick template to use as a guide. We'll check back in with his progress in a bit. Then we swap out,
Remove this bushing
so that
the
inlay
offset
fits perfectly with that offset.
Correct.
Okay, well, that seems a little too easy. Nick showed me how he does inlays using a router, and it was a way I've never done before. I'm not going into full detail in this video, but I'll be making another video soon about the full process. You won't want to miss it. Nick made this template on his laser engraver using some 1/4 inch acrylic. Here you see me using a plunge router to trace around the outside of the bow tie cutout, and then we go back through the middle to kind of break it up. This establishes the mortise and allows us to come back with a chisel to remove the bulk from the center. This olive wood was so dense, the sawdust would get packed in the grooves. We used a Duresta ice pick to clear them out. After the chisel, we came back with a flat bit and cleaned up all of the inside of the mortise to make sure that the mortise was nice and clean. Next up is the part that makes the actual bow ties that will inlay into the mortise we just cut. This was also made on Nick's laser, and he countersunk a couple of holes to just secure it down to the bow tie stock. That way, the screws are not in the way of the router. Then we proceeded to cut out the bow ties. We're using Osage orange for the wood species for these. I took the Osage orange board over to the miter saw to cut off the section with the bow ties, and then to the bandsaw. I resawed the board so it would release the bow tie. Again, this wood was so dense the sawdust just got compacted in the grooves. Perfect. We sanded the edges of the backside to create a little chamfer. Then I glued them all in. With how we cut these and measured the cut off the bandsaw, they seated fully into the mortise. You'll see a few gaps on the biggest bow tie, and I think I did something to make the template slip. It's totally my fault. Then I just flushed them up with a hand plane. Oh, and I used some plugs to cap the holes we drilled earlier. Back over on the other side of the shop, Caleb was already working on the base for his table. He's welding up some simple legs from some square tube and angled steel. He's definitely going to complete his table first. Nick has been using tinted Bondo to fill voids for a while now because it hardens quickly and it's sandable. And if you tint it like this, it looks really nice.
Oh, casualty.
I just used a couple of putty knives to fill all the voids in the piece. Mine had a lot of voids, so we actually had to mix up a second batch of Bondo to get them all.
Yeah, more air service and slows the cure time. You need a big chunk.
Before it fully hardens, it's best to come back and scrape off the excess. This saves a ton of sanding. I still had a decent amount of sanding since I forgot to scrape the excess off of the top, but that went quickly enough. Time to add some finish. I thought I was loving how it was looking, but then I flipped it over and started on the top. I could not believe it. The grain in this olive wood is just wild, and I'm glad I stuck it out with this slab, cracks and all. It was a considerable amount of work to get it stabilized, but totally worth it.
Oh my goodness. Look at that. Look right there.
Caleb left a section of bark on the live edge and it looks really cool. Be sure to click on the link below and go over to his video to see how it turned out. And if you don't already subscribe to his channel, do it. He makes some cool stuff. We decided to have a bottom shelf on this little table, so I grabbed a piece of walnut that looked nice and milled it up. I started marking and cutting some angled steel for legs. I just used his cordless portable bandsaw to make the cuts. Nick had a bunch of these tabs lying around, so we decided to use them to secure the top, the bottom shelf, and as feet under the steel. Then we started welding it all together. All right, about to weld for the first time. Not too bad, a little splattery. A little chunky.
That's good. You got more on the tab than the thing, but
About to weld for the first time. Almost totally missed where I was trying to put it. Still crackly at the beginning. Was I too far away?
it's possible. But no, that's good. I think why it crackled a little bit is because we're grounding to the table. So yes, you did get the connection point there, but it's still you were starting it on something that's not physically touching the
I see.
things. That's what
So
I
if I
was
start
thinking.
touching this, kind of back and forth, it'll just have a better arc. Okay, let me do one more.
Yeah. Yeah.
It did better. It was out to weld for the first time. I'm still learning to weld. This was all part of me learning. And as you can see, I'm not great at it at all. Dang it, why can't I see it better? All I did... In fact, it's pretty frustrating to me, but I'm going to keep at it. Since this table will live in Nick's home, I decided to let him finish up the rest of the welds. Next, we marked about 1 bob up from the bottom and welded on another set of these tabs. The lower shelf would rest on these tabs. Then, Nick knocked out the rest of the welding so we could hurry this along. I cleaned up everything with some denatured alcohol, and then we applied a simple finish to the steel. We just heated up the legs with a torch and wiped on some paste wax while they were still hot. This gave a nice darkened look to the steel, and it will also help prevent rust. I switched back over to the walnut shelf and cut it to its final size. We ended up not having enough washers, so we tried to make some out of walnut because lasers. This didn't end up working, but it was fun to try to problem solve with what we had. If you run into some spot in a project and you don't have the right thing that you need, try to improvise and see if there's another way to get it to work. It doesn't always work out, but that's okay. Try anyway. Adding finish to walnut is always a highlight. We are using some more of that natural Danish oil, and the walnut just jumps out at you after adding this. We trued up the legs at the sander and then started attaching them to the tabletop. Once we got 2 of them in place, we figured out where the other 2 legs would go based on the size we calculated for the smaller shelf. We flipped it over, buffed on some paste wax, and this table was done. Get over here, we got a high five. Yeah. Boom. Look at that. Thanks so much for checking out this project. I had a really good time building this. We had fun in the shop, and be sure to go check out Caleb's channel. It's You Can Make This Too. He built a slightly different table, similar concept of metal base. We built it kind of from the same slab. He's got some other different things he had to overcome than I did in mine. Big thanks to Nick here at Lakeside. Appreciate y'all letting us come and build. It's just been fun, you know, having a good time, chatting, eating some snacks, and anyway, so thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I'll see you next time.
Okay, check your phone. We're not filming.
It was his wife.
It was the wife. Oh.
Yeah.
To make sure it was
You gotta
her
do
before
that.
he hung up.
Yeah, hung up on her.
Yeah.